After rescuing the leopard, the girl was surrounded by leopards. What happened next will shock you. Emily Carter is an American student majoring in wildlife research in California. Since childhood, she has been fascinated by wild nature and always dreamed of touching the real world out there. At the end of the course, students choose a real-world project in a biodiverse country. Without hesitation, Emily chose South Africa, a fascinating name with countless wild animals. She bought her plane ticket, prepared her documents, and started her journey to Kruger National Park. On the long flight, she read books about the ecology and behavior of big cats. Each page made her heart beat faster, eagerly awaiting the promising journey. Emily arrived on a sunny afternoon, greeted by smiles from the sanctuary staff. Her main guide was Mr. Sifo, a longtime ranger who knew every bush in the forest. They began their journey deep into the forest, exploring the wildlife in the early summer rainy season. On the first day of the tour, it suddenly rained, making the forest floor slippery and the sky turned gray. Emily and Mr. Sifo continued to move along the trail through the shoulder-high bushes. She stood in the rain, taking notes, taking pictures of footprints, and listening to the birds chirping in the distance. Every step was a new experience. All her senses were awakened. Sifo told her about his encounters with black panthers and mystical stories in the jungle. They went deeper, turning into less traveled areas to learn about hunting habits during the rainy season. The rain was getting heavier. Their clothes were soaked, but both of them still kept up their enthusiasm. Suddenly, a loud thunderclap startled Emily, and trees fell over in the strong wind. In her haste to find shelter, she turned around but could no longer see Mr. Chipo. She called out his name in vain amid the sound of falling rain and the cold depths of the forest. Emily tried to stay calm, checking her compass and map, but everything was soaked and useless. She found a large tree to rest under, hoping Tifo would find her when the rain stopped. The rain kept falling. Each heavy drop seemed to beat against her fragile courage. Fear gripped her. But she knew she had to stay calm because there was no room for panic here. She groped her way along the sound of flowing water, hoping to find a familiar river. As she approached the riverbank, she recognized the section of river from the conservation area map she had studied. Emily sat down, leaning against the tree trunk, sighing softly in exhaustion and mud covering her hands. Suddenly, a faint cry like that of a big cat came from upstream. She turned back and was stunned to see a black panther cub being swept away by the floodwaters. Without thinking, she threw her backpack on the ground and jumped straight into the rushing water. The water rushed against her chest, but Emily still managed to reach out and grab the small body. The cub struggled, claws scratching in panic, but Emily refused to let go. She staggered to her feet, pulling the animal to safety, both of them drenched and panting. Using the towel in her backpack, she gently dried it, speaking words of comfort. The cub trembled, its big round eyes looking at her as if it understood that she had just saved its life. Emily laid it on her lap, using her body to shield it from the rain, her heart pounding with too many emotions. She thought she had done the right thing, but had no idea what lay ahead. Suddenly, from behind came the sound of heavy footsteps stepping on the mud. Emily looked up, her heart stopping as she saw 4 adult black panthers approaching. She quickly put the baby leopard on the ground, huddled against the tree, so scared she couldn't breathe. The adult leopard stopped, not growling, not threatening, just silently observing. The cub ran to a female leopard, rubbing its head against her neck like a child looking for its mother. The tongues licked the cub's fur. The intimate gestures were full of emotion. Emily slowly understood. She had just saved the child that the leopards had been searching for all morning. The mother leopard looked at her. Her eyes were not resentful, but calm and profound, as if she wanted to thank her. The whole herd turned around, seemingly intending to retreat, leaving the girl still sitting breathlessly by the tree. But just a few steps later they stopped and turned to look at her again. The cub walked up to Emily, gently licking her hand as if to convey a silent message. The mother leopard bowed her head, then turned a few steps and turned back as if signaling Emily. The girl was confused, but her intuition told her that she should follow them. Emily stood up and walked softly behind the leopards like an unexpected visitor. Through the dense foliage, through the mud that covered her feet, the leopards led her on a strange path. No one spoke, no roar, just the sound of rain and the soft tread of the wild. Finally, Emily came into sight of a paved road cutting across the reserve. The girl was moved to tears. She returned to where she could call for help, and returned. Emily turned back, bowed slightly, and waved as a thank you to her strange wild friends. The leopard stood still, looked at her one last time, then slowly turned and walked away towards the distant fields. She stood there for a long time, still unable to believe that she had just lived through such a miracle. The forest wind blew gently across my cheeks, carrying the smell of wet grass and an indescribable feeling. After about 30 minutes, a farmer's pickup truck drove across the road. Emily ran out waving and shouting for them to stop in the fading rain. The driver, a simple old South African man, opened the door and looked at her in surprise. She recounted the story in fragments, her voice still shaking from the concussion. The farmer was stunned and shook his head in disbelief. It was like a real-life fairy tale. He said that for many years, no one had heard such a touching story between a man and a newspaper. The car took her back to the reserve headquarters in the warm, pale afternoon light. The staff opened the gate in surprise to see Emily returning drenched and with shining eyes. Mr. Sifo ran to hug her, not believing that his student had just survived in the middle of the forest. She recounted everything, every step, every emotional look of the leopard. Everyone fell silent when they heard the part where the baby leopard licked her hand and led her back to the main road. They looked at the photo she still had on her phone. The baby leopard's clear eyes touched everyone. Emily wrote down the entire experience in a report titled A Journey Between Darkness and Faith. Her thesis was sent straight to the university with confirmation from the Conservation Management Board. The article quickly spread among students and researchers on the human-nature connection. She became a living symbol of love for nature and courage at the right time and place. Emily has been invited to present at international conferences on wildlife conservation and behavior. The photos were shown in the hall. She recounted with eyes full of pride and gratitude. Her story was adapted into a documentary that aired on several major platforms. Whenever South Africa is mentioned, people remember the girl who was led by a pack of black leopards. Emily continued her research, but in her heart, Kruger was always the magical place where she started.